Howdy fellas, Frankie Dave back again YouTube. Today YouTube I have another collection of my builds of the past. This time it's unusual compared to most builds you've seen on YouTube here. Old Pete at Hollywood, he said, hey Frank, do you ever build a stick and tissue models? Oh yeah. I started building these things since I was a child. I used to use the old Cleveland kits. I used to build with my father. Anyway, today's YouTube presentation, fellas, is a flying model made out of balsa wood and Japanese tissue. I built this model about 15 years ago, and it flies. I've flown this thing about 10 times already. Never crashed it. It flies pretty good. I just took it down from the down below in my finished basement where I keep all my completed models stashed in boxes, and I have this hanging up on the overhead and ceiling. So I decided to want to share it with everybody right here. Guys, I got to do this one on webcam. I have my computer, Windows 8, and I got it this morning, and I had an update for new Windows 8.1. So my computer wouldn't let me back in on my regular Windows 8. So I had to update everything like that. And once I updated the whole computer right there, my software to my other camera somehow didn't load up or was forgotten. And so I had to go back and dig up around the software and figure out what's what and how to get this thing going again. So this is temporary to get my camera going, folks. So right now we'll do this one on webcam. I'll try to do it as clean as best as I can so you guys get an overall view of my airplane. Okay, for today's presentation of builds of the past is a Curtiss F9-C Sparrow Hawk. Now the F9-C Sparrow Hawk was in the beginnings of the innovations of the golden age of aviation back in the 1930s. In the 1930s, the Navy was really toying around with some crazy ideas. Using dirigibles like the Los Angeles, the Akron, and a few other dirigibles that they used at the time, and they seem to think, you know, it'd be a pretty good idea if we could build hangar bays inside these big dirigibles and make some kind of a mechanism that could pick up these airplanes in flight and catch them mid-flight, twice them up inside the hangar bays, and close the hangar bay doors and store the aircraft. In case we were attacked, we could open the bomb bay, we could open up the hangar bays and launch the aircraft. Well, the aircraft behind me is the F9-C Sparrow Hawk. Now this aircraft right here was used from 1933 up to about 1935. The Navy considered the idea using dirigibles in airplanes was an uncanny idea, but with the event of war coming around the horizon in the future, which they surmised that this kind of exercise would be considered obsolete. So anyway, this aircraft behind me was stricken from the service as late as 1935. They had no use for it. It was actually an experimental aircraft more than anything. It was very light. It had a wingspan of 28 feet, very small. And the engine was, I believe, it was a Wright Whirlwind engine that they used. And it had two 30 caliber machine guns, which were synchronized with the prop. And the neat feature of the airplane itself, it had a trapeze hook that was on top of the top wing. So when the aircraft came up underneath the dirigible, it'd be like a trapeze artist catching his buddy in a somersault mid-flight. The principle was the same, but it's different. So when the aircraft would get underneath the dirigible, it'd catch a hook right there on the airplane, and catch it and hoist the aircraft inside the hangar bay of the dirigible. And the pilot would get out and do his thing. The Akron, New York, and there's another big dirigible they used. I can't figure out right now, it's tip my tongue, but I will spit it out sooner or later. Those are the only dirigibles that were employed in the United States Navy that incorporated a hangar bay that could be able to store and launch these type of aircraft. These aircraft were optional with an undercarriage. Some had undercarriage, and some didn't. But most of them didn't have no undercarriage because they were triced in flight. As they were picked up by the conveyor hook that was on the bottom of the visual and was hoisted inside the hangar bay, the airplane lay suspended because they had no undercarriage. But some had undercarriage, and the ones that had undercarriage, they stored the hangar deck on the visual. But most of them, later on, before they were actually stricken from the United States Navy and no longer in use as obsolete, a lot of them didn't have the undercarriage. But the aircraft behind right here, the F9-C, this has the undercarriage to it, so this is more or less was one of the first Sparrow Hawks was used, and in spite of the ones that had no undercarriage. So right now, I'd like to present the airplane to you. Once again, folks, my software got lost in the ozone somewhere, so we got to deal with this webcam situation until I get this thing squared away. So anyway, I'll grab my Sparrow Hawk behind me, and we'll take a walk around this thing. This thing is big now. This thing flies. This actually flies. I've flown this thing at least 10 times. I've never wrecked it yet. It's a good flyer. It weighs 28 grams. So it's a pretty light airplane. And the kit that makes this company is, I believe it's a Dumasd makes this one. This is a Dumasd kit. So any of you fellas got any balsa wood kits from Dumasd kit, you're probably familiar with this airplane. So here's my F9-C Sparrow Hawk with the yellow top of the wings, which identify colors in case the airplane was shot down or lost. It can be identified easy with the yellow wing. The red hash marks means this is the group commander's aircraft because he had a solid red cowling on there. Most aircraft of this era that had colored cowls and colored wings like this one here, some of the cowls were painted a different color. Only half the cowl instead of the full cowl. Right up there, this is a transfuse mechanism. When this thing would come up, that blimp would grab it and catch it. Once it catches on the trapeze, it would hoist it up into the hangar bay. As you can see, this is it's a big airplane. Wingspan almost about 30 inches. It's big. I took rubber out of the prop so I wouldn't warp the fuselage. And it's a nice plane. It flies real good. Highly detailed. I've done a little more than what the kit has offered. What I did on the kit, I more or less, from this area here up forward, I used 1/32 lightest grade sheet balsa wood to strengthen it. This kit was designed for formers and stringers. So the formers and stringers were treated all the way from the aft of the fuselage all the way up to the firewall where the cowling is hooked up to, where the rubber motor hooks up to. So actually the real aircraft was incorporated with the skins, covered all the way forward of the cockpit up to the firewall. That's what's done with this airplane. The landing gear is bungeed for soft landing. Anybody's got a plane like this, I recommend flying this thing on soft grass. This thing is old, and so far ain't no holes in the tissue. I'll make quite certain they don't get beat up. I always fly over tall grass. There's a place about a mile down my house. I call it a Free Flight Hills. It's a big old steep hill, and it's good for thermal flying. I watched this thing one time. The thing flew about almost a quarter of a mile. But the rudder is more or less operable to trim the airplane. One thing about balsa wood free flight aircraft, they got to be trimmed. So to keep this airplane in perfect trim, I have the rudder turned to the right for right turn glide, and it gives torque. So when the arc of the prop turns, the airplane have a tendency of turning to the left because of the centrifugal force of the prop turning. So to counter that centrifugal force, you got to turn your rudder. Have to put torque in on your fuselage on the plane itself. The plane will fly straight till it runs out of power. It'll be actually a left. It'll be almost like a left turn power. Then when it runs out of power, it'll fly to the right, almost like in a pilot configuration. It'll keep you from chasing it. So that's one of the arts of aviation I learned when I was a schoolboy. My father used to fly these all the time. So this is the Dumasd F9-C Sparrow Hawk, and this is a good plane. I enjoy it. I hope you fellas enjoy it too. And it's a beautiful airplane, and I'm glad everybody enjoys it really good. This is a beautiful plane, very pretty. It's one of the kind of that era. And matter of fact, there's a plastic model of this airplane that's available. It's by Williams Brothers. They make a 1/32 scale of this. I got one of those in my stash in my box down below. Where it's at, I don't know. I got 100 boxes of models down there. And boy, I have to go through every one of them just to find out where it's at. And the only thing I failed at the time is I didn't mark on the boxes what's what in there. Finish the model, put it in the box, get rid of it for a while. Come back 10 years later, open it up, see what's in it. So anyway, that concludes my builds of the past of my F9-C Sparrow Hawk. And I should have it up there in my bolo tonight. I've been out of town today, out there taking care of some business. My wife had to go to the hospital last night. She has that CPOD, we call it. And we got some cold out in Ohio. I was probably up down in the States. This change of weather, I got the cold. I'm starting to shake it off right now, and I tell you one thing, it's miserable. And she got it from yours truly right here. And I took her to sick bay last night. The Shanker mechanic had to check her out a little bit, and kept her overnight just for observation, because my wife is she's elderly. She's senior. She's older than me. She's 80 years old, and I'm 73. So do the math. You know, she's older than I am, and when you get old like that, it's harder for you to heal. When you're a young lad out there, it's easy to heal. And when you get sick, you can shake it off a lot quicker too. When you get older in life, it's hard to shake that stuff off, fellas. So take plenty of vitamins, drink a lot of water, a lot of fluids, and stay away from people who are sick. And that'll be that. So anyway, fellas, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. And I'll be checking out people's YouTubes here. Speedy, the Speedy 197. Mark, he's got a group build coming up. I believe it's aircraft from the 1960s. It's either jet aircraft or a simple aircraft. The choice is yours, as long as it's in that era. And there's a D-Day group build coming up too by Robert Gosselin. He's got that coming up pretty good. I believe that starts in January up in June. That's a long time. So that's right around the corner. And so far the only build that's shaking right now is my group build going on. And Speedy's got his coming up pretty soon. I imagine he'll list it on the next YouTube presentations he'll bring up. He'll be able to give you the dope on that, see when it's going to start. So I got plenty of 1960 aircraft. I got one right now I'm going to work on. Matter of fact, it's an F4 Phantom right behind my shoulder right there. Can't be more 6 years than that. Fits my era back in the Vietnam days. So anyway, folks, before I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. And may God bless and happy modeling. And please subscribe. And you boys take care. And next update will be on my Bolo bomber. I'll present that this evening. So stay tuned for that YouTube presentation. And happy modeling. Go back to your work, fellas, and take care of yourself, fellas. And I love you guys. You guys are the best in the world. So may Godspeed and God bless. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye, fellas. Bye now.